Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A tonight. It is a wet, nasty night in Toronto. Uh, the colors in Canada, in Ontario specifically, have just been absolutely glorious the past couple of weeks. Uh, we don't have any mountains, we don't have any oceans. Our scenery is fairly flat, but as I said in my Instagram post the other day, once a year, glory comes to our part of the world, and it's just hard to be sad when there's so much beauty out there. And I see we have people again from all over. We've got you with an E coming all the way from Germany. Uh, Look at all. John from Art East is here. Always fun when you're in the house. And look at this. We've got people from Tennessee. We got people from Massachusetts. WV, Mary Bartram. Where's WV? Not sure where that is. Oh, Lord, look at everyone. North Carolina, Arkansas, Schaumburg, just north of me. I presume you're talking about Schaumburg in Ontario. Dunedin, New Zealand. Bonnie, you are on the opposite side of the world from us. I have been in Dunedin, New Zealand. I believe I went to Dunedin. That's where the Cadbury and the beer factory is, if I remember correctly. San Antonio, Texas. Schaumburg, Illinois. And Salim from Montreal. Welcome, everybody. And just sitting in the other room, we have Angie. I'm just going to, here we go, say, from the other side of the world. And our little joke is that she's coming from tomorrow. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. You've already had a busy day running around, haven't you?
I have. My parents have. My mum is realizing a dream that she's held since 1976, which is just yesterday. And her and my father are off to Norfolk Island for a week and a bit. So I dropped them to the airport this morning, like the good daughter I am. And yeah, very exciting.
Trip to the airport always gets bonus points.
Yeah, nothing says I love you like airport traffic.
Well, I remember I used to like giving my parents a ride to the airport because that meant I got to use the car for the week while they were gone.
Yeah, no, I'm at that age now where we took my car. But yeah, it's a bit surreal to be after 2 decades of living away, it's a bit surreal to be here and do the mundane stuff with them. But I'm very excited for my mum. She's been longing to go, and so to be able to realize that is a true blessing. But yeah, she's going to see the world this year. She's going to Norfolk Island. She's coming to Panama. So, yes.
I'm excited to meet her.
She's just like me, only better.
Well, she might say she's the original. So I noticed that you have, I'm just going to change it so we have your full screen here. You have a quilt behind you.
Yeah, well, I couldn't be outdone by yours. So this is this year's 100 days blocks for me, and you can see how they're coming together because I sewed my 100th block yesterday, and so I've been working on putting it together. But yeah, this is a updated version of the kitchen sink for assembly, and so I've been working it out as I go, but I'm pretty excited by it. I'm really loving, and I know this sounds funny, but I'm really loving the busyness of it and the odd use of geometry in it, because it looks random and like there's no like it's just random patchwork, but there is an order in it. So yeah, I'm obsessed with it.
There's something about it's like an I Spy quilt. Like there's a discovery in all of it. It may look chaotic from afar, but up close, it is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think too, because it amuses me. And so as I see it, and I catch different fabrics, because I have a very large stash, and it's not polite to talk about the size of one stash in company, but quite a large stash of these um, whites and cream based prints. And for some reason, if I'm in a quilt shop or ordering fabric, they're the ones I can't go past, but they're the ones I really struggle to use, because in my head, I'm like, the chocolate's going to show up on that when I'm eating in bed and watching TV. And the dog prints are going to show up on that when he comes into bed and wants snuggles. And, all of those sorts of things show up on these. And so I tend to not use them. But then when I see it together like this, I'm like, why did I not use these earlier? I'm missing out on all of the joy that these rando prints bring me. So, yeah, it's a real. I know this sounds funny, but I feel like I'm going through a renaissance in my patchwork, um, which, it's always nice to fall in love again with your craft. But yes, but
Go ahead.
talk about yours.
Well, just before we talk about mine, I'm looking at those yellow birds behind you, and
Oh, the heather.
I think on my hand sewing project, these came from the same one. They were the they were the cutoffs of that bird print. That's that French designer, isn't it?
Oh, this one here.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That is Odell.
yeah.
Odell. Yeah,
Odell. Yeah.
yeah. He's
So
amazing. Like if you,
you can see, like I've cut the bird off. I used her in
yeah,
bigger hexes and got the symmetry from those birds elsewhere.
yeah. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you really should, because she is very eclectic, and just lives in France, I think, somewhere very beautiful, and just has the most colourful. Like I'd like to go live in her world for just a little bit. It's so colourful. But yeah, I thought you were talking about these ones, which were the Heather Ross from her Malibu collection. But yes, they're amazing. But again, they work together in this. Well, I think they work together in this randomness. But yeah,
But it also illustrates, I've said before, how eyes are attracted to the yellow.
yeah. And I've had to, as I've worked, because I didn't. I know this would be hard to believe, but I didn't have a plan for this. I've just been pulling fabrics as I've found them. And what I'm finding now when putting it together is I'm trying to balance those pops of yellow in the layout. So that's probably been the only thing that I didn't consider and I should have considered is where that yellow goes.
Well, with me and mine, I'll just bring this over a little bit more so you can see. Like I really like it. Just I almost broke my brain. It
Yeah.
was just such a struggle, and because I thought the more I thought about it that there would be a perfect layout, that it just had to reveal itself to me. I had to just sort of let it go and realize, it'll all work. But really playing with sashing, and I would say it's not that difficult to put together, but it was really hard on the brain to think it out.
Can
And
you walk me through, sorry,
go ahead.
just how, so can you, if you turn it back, those flying geese where you fussy cut the stripes,
Yep.
how did you cut with a template, or did you cut, are they paper pieced, or how did you line it up?
Well, my good friend Angie in Australia
It sounds like a
gave
mother.
me gave me a fussy cut ruler.
Ah, okay.
But those stripes are really nice and big, and that wasn't really out of my realm to fussy cut without too much difficulty, because I just centered the point on the point of the flying geese, which made them kind of stumpy. If I did it again, I'd do it on the bright one, because you lose the
Yep,
point down here. Um,
yep.
there were other places Where is that? I've got one over here. Let me just see if you can pull it. I'm, I'm twirling it right around here. My
Take me with
this one,
you.
this one right here. I didn't realize it until I finished it, but somebody said that looked like an X-wing fighter, and it kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
comes the way that I've ordered. These are turtle heads.
Yep.
Tula's things, but yeah, I'm pretty. I must say, I'm pretty pleased with it. Pretty pleased.
Yeah, it's so just I'm putting in my request now. Can you bring that on the cruise with you, please? So that I can see it in person? Um,
Sure, definitely.
you and I'll be
Because it's going to
wearing
be
togas.
so hot. And we're going to need to be hotter on the Panama canoe cruise.
You and I won't bring any clothing. It'll just be quilts, and then we'll be wearing them like togas and a poncho.
So, how many quilts are we bringing? We're bringing three, I guess. We've got the old one, and then we'll have the new one, and then we'll have the expansion pack if we've the expansion
So
pack as well.
in my head, I've been calculating, and I'm like, so we'll have the new quilt for next year. We'll have our expansion pack version of the new quilt. Then we'll have possibly your. So that's your quilt from last year, isn't it?
Yes, this
And
is from
so
2021.
yeah, I don't want to tell. I don't want to ruin anything for people, but I've got my nautical inspired one coming together. So I was going to bring that so we could have ours photographed beside each other that year. Um, and then I was thinking maybe this one, depending on, but yeah, so we will have a lot of quilts. Um, Tammy's just asked what cruise. Well, Tammy, good thing you've asked because Karen and I are sailing 15 nights from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Los Angeles, California via the Panama Canal. So the details are on Karen and I's websites, and I think there'll be a link in the description below for this as well when it's posted after we finish chatting. So
So
I
if you
can't post links in the thing because I'm not an admin.
Yeah, so if you go to my website, you'll see a link. Just scroll down a bit and you'll see the link for the Panama cruise. Just click on learn more. And if you go down a little bit farther, you'll also see, for anyone who has not joined in yet, you'll see the link for how to join 100 days, 100 blocks. So, yeah.
I'm very excited.
We are very excited. We were talking today. For us, it's more than just showing up and going on the cruise. We're just working through all the logistics. We're nailing down all the details and the equipment needed for the cruise. We're talking to the ship, making sure that they have all the equipment. We're talking to the tour guides because they're going to make the arrangement for people buying into the cruise and everything. And just Ray and John are so nice. Angie, you've just met them, but they're experienced cruisers, and they know what's involved in going on a ship. They know they're so good. They tell you need to worry about this, but you don't need to worry about this.
Yeah, and like it's really weird to talk about it because I think I'm more excited for the people than the places we're actually going to. I mean, I'd love to see a sloth, but yeah, to meet John and Ray, to meet Karen again, this time being more aware of who Karen is. Like and then the people that have already booked that are coming to meet Tracy. Like, yeah, it's just.
And Lynn Jones. We've got 3 people from Alaska. We've got Elizabeth, Tracy, and Lynn. And one of the things that'll be upsetting is these people are so nice. If they were closer, we would be having coffee every week. But they're so far away. So I'm just so excited to see them again.
But I've been thinking about this too. I think we just do it every year. We just get the gang back together. somewhere in the world. We'll have some big adventure. We'll make beautiful quilts together. We'll chat all through the night, and then we'll go back to our own homes, have a year of experience, and then come back together again. But yeah, it's just gonna be amazing. Once in a lifetime.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's a bucket list trip. So, does everybody want to start seeing the blocks that we pulled out? So, I am just going to grab now. The first one is just here. This is one that's just right up my alley. This is from BW Quilts. Now, I think I've got it just a little bit large. Let me just pull it down to the size it should be. We said Angie was going to do hers first, but this one was insistent. Instagram has changed their algorithm a bit, so we were not able to grab photos the way we normally do. This was a complicated procedure of me on my screen and sharing it to my big computer, then cutting and pasting from there. But this is delightful. I love the way that these 3 dots are fussy cut and then with these other colors.
Yes, sorry, I'm doing double duty today, so if every so often I go serious face, I'm just answering people in the chat, and I'm waiting for Liza to tell me to smile because I think of her every time now. Yeah, the dots, and like it's really funny, but the scallop print that's in it, I've had in my stash for ages, and when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's right, I've got that fabric. But it's just the repetition of shape and color and the fussy cutting of those dots that really makes this block bounce.
Yeah.
See what I did there? But yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to yours now, Angie. We're going to start with number 1. So let me just turn that one off. Here we go. Well, what is there not to like about this, Angie? This is just gorgeous, and I love those buttons.
I know, and I've been chuckling because Sonia commented on my Instagram feed that she just approaches each day with a randomness and makes whatever she feels like that day. And I just love this. As a person who is also a fellow rainbow lover, obviously it ticked all those boxes, but I love the inclusion of just a little bit of print in the solid. Just made it pop. So again, a way of adding interest to your block that doesn't require a lot. So yeah, and just that progression of color through the block as well is really just makes my heart sing. But yeah,
I also like the idea that she's experimenting, like just playing every day. Nothing's too precious. Just go for it.
Yeah, and she's getting some days she's not achieving what she wants, but to me they're the days where you learn the most, because I think if you're not experimenting and you're not having fun, then you're not going to grow. And so to learn, I think, is worth more than the fabric itself. But yeah, rainbow.
Now here's another rainbow by Deanna Sweeney.
I know, I'm starting to think I've got a type. But Deanna says she's just using scraps, and I think this is a really good this is what I love about samplers, is they're a great absorber of scrap. So and the piecing, traditionally in samplers, the piecing's quite small because the traditional size of sampler box was 6 inches by 6 inches, and so roughly the piecing in that's about 1.5 to 2 inches. So it is perfect for scraps, but she's shown that scraps still make a stunning block. Like it's yeah.
Well, I like the purple one that looks like it's from Tiny Beasts is not perfectly symmetrical. And I know we do a lot of fussy cutting, but it just shows that it doesn't have to be fussy cut. And I like the way that she has aligned the stripes and how that, it works no matter, like there's just so much wonderful stuff happening here.
Yeah, and I think too, you raise a good point. A lot of times people think fussy cutting is about putting the print right in the middle and putting all of the print, all of that area in the piece. And for me, fussy cutting is about cutting with intention. And so a lot of times interest can be created by putting something off center or only using a little bit of the print and letting your mind fill in the rest. And so I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. And the other thing is she's formed a picture with these scraps because it's basically purple land, tree, floral, into the sky. She's got the clouds and the bird, and then the sun in that top thing. So, yeah, it's an
She's done
interesting use
well.
of. Yeah, I'd have that block any day. Actually, I'd have all these blocks. Anyone's blocks. Send them to me. No, I'm kidding.
Here's the disco field mouse.
Need I say more? So this block 78, which is yesterday's block in the timeline, is probably my favorite block when I've done at the end of every year. This is the block that I come back to the most, and it's really a simple block. This was about showing off prints, and I'd really love a whole quilt of just these blocks. And it's on my bucket list to make it one day. But yeah, it's just such a good block for showing off print. But yeah, and I mean, what's not to love about that little mouse and shroom
Well, we'll see a number of different
versions of
versions
78?
of this. Now, is this one of this is one of yours? I can look at that flat lay.
Yeah, I couldn't resist because I didn't post this one to social media. So I'm doing a bit of self promotion today. But this is one of my favorite blocks because the fabric in the middle, the girl floating in space, was given to me by Nick Shipway, who's Nick Ships on Instagram, and she makes scrappy quilts that I just love. And the little girl reminds me of her. She's blonde, all that sort of stuff. But I only had the tiniest bit, and so I had to try and fussy cut it to get the aliens in there and the boy and the dog that she's going to. And then I framed it in fabric that ties in with the theme because I'm a big one for using themes. I don't know why my brain works like that, but I really struggle with mixing fabrics that don't seem to relate to each other in theme, which is very
So they're
limiting.
relating in theme, but they're not the same line.
No. So I don't know who the little girl is from. I think she's a Timeless Treasure fabric, but the solar system is a Dear Stella. And so yeah, and that's last year when I did the nautical themed quilt, heaps of people were like, where do you get the nautical fabric from? Is it all one line? And I think, no, I've been collecting it over 10 years. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm naturally drawn to nautical themed fabrics. I can't pass an anchor without buying it. And so if you know that about yourself and you shop your fabrics, if you love it, you'll always love it. So, don't be afraid to shop what you love and then hold on to it because it's never going to go out of style for you. And so that's how I approach my fabric curation. But yeah, but enough self promotion.
Okay, let's do the next one. Next one is NZ1. Okay, so we've got to make this one just a little bit smaller. Now, this is one of my favorite animals that Tula ever did were these otters.
Yes, and this is from our favorite John. Um, so I've stolen these ones from the free course content, and I didn't think John would mind me reposting his. But yeah, again, it's all about the fabric and the stripes. The stripes create interest. They don't run the same way all the way around the block, if that makes sense. And so yeah, I just really love it. It was cute, and that's my favorite otter in that print, the one that's on his back.
I believe the person you pronounce it Deania. Uh, is it Deania? Correct me if I'm wrong. But she is booked on our cruise, and she's just asking. Tonight seems to be about the 100 blocks. Is there any more info about the cruise so that she can stay ahead of any info that you need now? This is about the 100 blocks. We're not going to talk anymore about the cruise other than to send you to our website. But there will be an email that goes out at the end of the day, not the end of the day, the end of the week or first part of next week. And we will be having a Zoom meeting towards the end of November for everybody that's booked. And we'll get
Yep.
together and start chatting then. But yeah, tonight's about the
Yeah.
100 blocks.
You should have already received, if you've booked, you should have received an email from us as well. And we will use that channel for communicating information so you don't miss out on anything. You guys that have booked get it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And looking forward to see you when we do. Okay. So the next one is, this is the one with the beautiful flowers.
Yeah, so this is Carol Wolf, again from the course, the free course, which you can sign up to via my website. She's just centered that print perfectly. And I think from memory, this print is an Anna Maria Horner print. And she's paired it with the Chula Pink stripes and hexes. And it's just, there is, in theory, there's a lot going on in that block in terms of color and print. But it has a calmness and an orderedness to it because of the way she's used the block, the stripes and the fussy cutting of that block is centered and things like that. And I just think it's a really beautiful block. Plus, the other thing I really like about Carol, and she posts in the Facebook group, and oh, it is Carol too. It's Parisville. See, I knew I'd seen it somewhere. She posts stories about the jewelry that she photographs with it. And I really love that insight and a little bit of storytelling, because I love reading about other people's lives and things like that. And so I've really enjoyed seeing her blocks get posted. And if Carol, if that's you in the chat, job well done. 2 thumbs up. Yes.
Now, can we talk about the small tiny elephant in the room? Is that your pup?
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to go let him in? Sorry. Normally he'd be at his daycare facility, which is my parents', and they're not here at the moment, and so he's whinging. Would you like me to let him in and shut him up? Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. Pardon me, coming through.
So this is one of my favorite prints that Tula has done recently. These bears. I love her fabrics that you have to look closer to see the animal. So she did it with her rabbits, she did it with the turtles, and she in Slow and Steady, and she did it with the bears here in this one.
Yeah. And the beehive and the bees is really cute as well. And fun, unexpected.
Yeah. Let's see this one. This one, just love those. Are they oranges or lemons?
Bells of St. Clemens.
Yeah. I know that song. I'm dating myself.
I thought they were oranges, but yeah. And I thought they were oranges, but this thing made me giggle because it's like she's put them in a crate. You know those old wooden crates that you get fruit in? Because she's used the wood panel fabric around the sides. And I really like that this has, like in my head, I can feel the texture of that wood paneling, like the scruffy nature of it,
Yeah.
and I can smell the orange. And so I really like that this is an emotive block, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The we didn't mention who was the maker on this one. Who's the maker on that one? The one with the bears.
Sherilyn Sage Pontus.
On the oranges or the bears?
On the oranges. And the bears, there's a bear in there, was Debbie Demoni. And again, these are all coming from the free course.
Okay. Sorry.
And yes, the empty nest quilter has suggested tangerines, which I'm partial to as well.
Oh, we've got the Legos.
Yeah,
These
this one's for you.
for me. Yeah.
This is Cindy Stockdale's, and Cindy fussy cut the center, and in her comment said, "I'm really happy all my sheep have lined up." And I'm like, it's like herding cats sometimes quilting. And so yeah, I was just like, that's funny. But again, she's used basics, what they refer to as basics. So the tone on tone and the stars, which are repeating ditzy print. That's what I was looking for. To really bring out that print and put the focus on that print. So yeah, I love it. And sheep.
So let's move to mine now. Here's one from Gumbo Gator. Now, if you have a theme, obviously I have one with my warm colors.
Yep. Yep.
But I love the choice here of different textures for each layer.
Yeah, and again, Gumbo Gator is doing a nautical theme, I think, or they're using the Alexander Henry nautical tattoo prints for their blocks, and so they've pulled colors. Their palette seems to be very much from that fabric, and again, it's that texture through everything. Hello, buddy. So yeah.
Now, the creative Jen is showing here for me how you can take two fabrics and make a block spectacular. You don't have to do a lot of fussy cutting, but just choosing the right, you can get an amazing result with two fabrics.
Yeah, and these fabrics are really, it's like terrazzo. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Terrazzo?
Terrazzo.
Which is very on trend at the moment. And so her block, which is, it's like it's a simple block, but she's created that symmetry in reversing the colors in each half and just the texture that's in that print. It's a really smart block. And over 100 blocks, not every block can be a superstar. You need some of these more subdued blocks and the simple blocks to help elevate the ones around them and to put that interest back on the patchwork, the shapes that you're creating. But yeah.
Now, I had to put Ocean Pro Studio back on the board again. Like this one
Yeah.
is just perfection. A lot of them are, but you just want to go every time you see one of these blocks. I'm so looking forward to her final quilt. And she
Yeah.
does a beautiful flat lay on top of it every single time.
Yeah, I feel like just going to her, hey, next year, could I just outsource my feed to you for 100 days? And then, because it's amazing. But yeah, again, that fussy cut pattern matching, the use of texture in prints. Another good example that the color that you photograph your block against has an impact on how your block's seen as well,
Yeah.
which we often don't think about. But yeah, it's just a really lovely, all of them are lovely. Go check out her feed. But yes.
Is that the same thing? Okay, let's try this one. Now, this is Maya Quilts. It's green. We've seen hers before, but just amazing how impactful it can be.
Yeah, and I'm going out on a limb, and I think green will be very big next year. And I'm loving the repetition that the repetition of color in that quilt block causes its own pattern. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So she's made the block work for her, and I really love it when a patchworker bends a block to their will. But yes.
Now, here's another green one. Sewn by Elf. You
Yeah.
do this a lot. You make a story out of your patterns and how they blend together. And I think this one tells a story as well.
Yeah, so sewn by Aussie quilter, go the Aussies. And she's used a Heather Ross print on I think all of them are Heather Ross. I think her whole quilt ended up being Heather Ross. So oftentimes if you're just starting out, um, a good fabric designer will make all of their collections work together. And I think you see that with Chula, and she talks about it all the time in her videos about how she designs fabrics to work together and be um, a total picture and a total spectrum of color, which is very interesting given that she's just gone for neon, which I'm excited about. And so that the advantage of that is if you find a designer that you like their work, you can generally buy from multiple collections of theirs and make them all work together. And oftentimes, a designer keeps a similar theme to their fabrics as well. So Chula is very much about the animals and nature, and Heather Ross is a little bit the same way. She's very much on the storytelling side, and I think that reflects that she's an illustrator by career choice. But yeah, and this is just so good. It and again, check out her feed if you want to see more lovely scrappy patchwork. But yeah,
Now, Lori, I believe the last name is pronounced Bianchi or Bianchi or Bianchi. Um, just I wanted to talk about the difficulty when you have a large print, just kind of deciding where to fussy cut. What do you include? What don't you include? You were talking about this before with your space, your astronaut, and just how you have to fiddle around a bit. Like it's never necessarily obvious which way you're going to go. She's got
yeah,
two strong birds in this, but she's also got a couple of flowers. And I can see that I'm presuming that she's trying to get that flower in the top. She'll sacrifice the tail of the bird just to get that flower in the top and give some balance to this.
yeah. And we you talked about it before when you were talking about your quilt, but this is where the fussy cut ruler that we sell from Marty Michelle really comes in handy, is because it's got those marks of where the center is, where your diagonals are, and things like that, which makes it easier to do this. I found now after 10 years of fussy cutting, I tend to do a lot of it by sight. Um, and so I can sort of pick where I want things to go. But it is, you're right, with a repeating print, it is about what you sacrifice for the greater good of the patchwork block.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, and I don't have an answer for people about, is there a hard and fast rule about where you position your fabric in a block? When, for example, like this block, I think it really comes down to, and again, what you like and what you want to see and what's important in the print to you. And so I don't think there is any right or wrong, and it's a learning thing. But yeah, I really like those cute little birds.
Now, I apologize to the maker here. I had cut off with the height, but unfortunately, it seems that they have, who actually made this coffee block, um, block number 74 got cut off. But if you like a cuppa, this is your block. But
Yeah,
again, working
theme.
within your theme too. Here's a person after your heart.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I think I must be by nature a storyteller. And so I need that kind of structure. And um, if someone says, the worst thing someone says to me is, you can do whatever you want. I need some sort of boundary. And so a theme helps me rope that in. But yeah, I don't actually do coffee, but I do love this fabric choice. And it's brown. People always share it away from brown, but I think this shows you brown has a place in the spectrum of fabrics that you can use. Yeah.
We did this one before, the one that just snuck in there.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
This is another delightful one. Let me just see if I can get this down smaller. Ah, it's not liking me here. Here we go. Craft quilts. Now, kudos to her beautiful flat lays and layouts here, but there's something about this very simple block that makes my heart sing.
I know, and I saw this today too, and I'm like, I've done this block about 10 times, and it's never dawned on me to put the fabric in that place and create those two with like a little bridgy one in the middle. Um, so again, it's one of those things that's the beauty of coming out of 100 days is that we all get to see how other people interpret the same block and we can learn things. But yeah, I'm loving the greens and the bluey tealy. And again, Tula, Tula fabric.
Tula. Is that Tula? Which
It
one?
is, isn't it? The print, the hexagon prints is from her, um, the one Zuma. It's Zuma. Oh, and Laurie P in the chat just did us a solid, and the coffee block was made by Christina Walker.
Oh, thank you, Lori, for letting us know. Um, One of my favorites. Now, I've just thrown up this throwback from Angie because Angie is just a flat lay person extraordinaire. And this is from 2018. Was this the first year of Kinship Fusion?
No, this is City Sampler.
This is City
Um,
Sampler.
and that was 2008. I think that was the last year we did it because I did mine in all Tula. But yeah, again, a cheap hack. I just used a frame from IKEA, which was like $2. I went to a photographic store, a framing store, and asked them to cut the mat so that the square in the middle finished at 6 inches by 6 inches. And then laid out a piece of Chula's fabric and then put the block and frame on there. Oh, and there's no glass in the frame, so you don't get a reflection.
Right.
Thinker.
Okay. Got to remember that.
Yeah, and did it that way. And that really simple and effective way to shoot your blocks. Only problem is Kinship made that a bit of a pain in the bottom because it was two different sizes. And then next year's not even going to attempt it.
Well, I have another. Whoops, I lost that one. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is another one that just makes my heart sing. Little simple, not overly complicated. Go Dee Dee go. But I just love. Well, I guess she had me at turquoise, but the layout of the colors and the layout of the textures, just love it.
Yeah, I'm seeing a thing with dots for you today.
Normally, I'm not a big circle person, but maybe it's dots. Maybe it's the irregular dots.
Yeah, possibly. I find it really, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was cutting some stuff for another project. I find it really hard to work with plaid and stripe, like a line, like a solid line. And because if your cutting's off or your piecing's off, it's very difficult to make your block not look wonky, even if it's not wonky.
But often the printing's off too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You wait till you see the one I was playing with yesterday. And it like it struggled. Like the OCD in me just struggles. And that's why I think a ditzy dot like this, where the dots all over the shop, is fun to work with because your piecing can be kaput, but it looks intentional. But the piecing in this is superb. And I'd say she's done, just by the thickness in the themes, I think this might be a foundation paper pieced version. But again, it's the fact that I've done this block 1,000 times and never thought to make it look like Tetris blocks.
Let me go back to this one here and try and get this one. This is by Moonlight Quilters. Now, we've seen Moonlight Quilters before, but there's just something delightful about, well, one, I have a soft spot for combi vans because I went around Australia in one, but I just love this one. Again, the warm colors.
And for those of you that are paying attention at home, another Heather Ross. This is all Heather Ross prints. And Moonlight Quilters are making a Heather Ross themed quilt. Go check them out. Great store, great people. Grace is lovely, and her mother, who owns and runs the store, is amazing too. Lovely people, lovely people. But yeah, it's it's that thing of the theme. Designer works together. It's a theme. Everyone's on a holiday with their dog, their teacup chihuahua. But yeah, it's fun. And I noted in the chat, because I am watching the chat peeps, Lisa, did I get that right? Has said she's not a big fan of Tulip Pink. She finds it too busy. And I think, yep, I get it. I totally understand it. I have to be in the mood for it. And I think that's the great thing about patchwork is you can just do what works for you. And quite frankly, everybody's welcome here, whether you like her or not. That's what we're here to do, is talk about what works, what we love, what we enjoy. But yeah. Oh, and I got the name right. Yay.
Now here's one. Now, is this one of the Halloween themed ones? Because there's certainly Halloween colors.
Yeah, so the broomsticks is from Art Gallery Spooky and Sweeter line, which is really fun if you're looking for like a not so Halloweeny Halloween one. And the black one I do not know, and same with the orange. I think the orange is a blender from another line as well. But yeah, it's Halloween. And again, they fussy cut the direction of the broomsticks, which just sings to my heart, because they all go in the same direction, which is wonderful.
Do you know the maker of this? Because unfortunately, the name got cut off on this one too.
Oh,
I'm just looking.
no,
Oh, here it
sorry.
is. Here it is. It's Choo Choo Bear. Choo Choo Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here is another. This one's just hot off the press. I think this one was just posted a short time ago. Bridge the Gap Studios. Love the name. There's a little bit of randomness in these prints, but they're all Tulas, back to Tula, and they somehow all work together because
Yeah,
Tula is consistent in her colors.
yeah. Again, it's an easy hack for those of you that are looking, that maybe just starting out or aren't confident in your choices or whatever. An easy way to do it is just pick. You don't have to buy all the fabrics from one designer, but if you pick a few from each collection, if they're lucky enough to have a few collections, then they should work together. And then as you get stronger and more confident in your choices, you can take those same fabrics that you love and mix them with other things that you've found. But yeah, and this again, it's that I'm really digging busy at the moment. Like, just can't get enough of print. In my head, I think I'm going to be one of those old women that looks like they've just walked into their wardrobe and put on 15 different random pieces. But that's really speaking to me at the moment. But yeah, really
Now,
good.
I'm paying attention to the chat. It is Richard's birthday. Happy birthday, Richard Cole.
Happy birthday, Richard!
And Victoria has brought up a point saying, must we always remember the designer's name for the fabric that we use? I sort my fabric by color, not designer. No, you don't have to remember the designer. I am terribly bad at remembering the designer other than Tula, but you know what? I've discovered some of the fabrics in my collection are Tula's, and I didn't even know it was connected that way. And I didn't know anything about Heather Ross either. But Angie does have an encyclopedic knowledge of
I can't remember my PIN number, but I can tell you where I was when I bought that fabric. Yeah.
But designers are also hardworking. Like, it takes a lot to put a collection together. So I think even though I don't remember, or having a particular person's fabric is not so important to me, I think it is respectful to just give credit to a designer and all their hard work.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too is this is my job. And so the question, hands down, the question I get asked the most when I share or post my work is, whose fabric is that and where did you get it from? And so it's an occupational hazard to not know that stuff. And so that's generally why when we talk about the blocks, if I know who the fabric is from, I tell you so that you can go and purchase it and support them and do all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, no, you don't have to. And I sort my fabric in these big tubs. And there's only a handful of fabrics that I have by designer. Generally 90% of my stash is by color. So yeah. But trust me, if we ever have a quilters trivia night, you're gonna want me on your team.
And you don't want me on yours. Whoops. We lost this beautiful photo here. Okay. So this one is the last of the blocks before we go on to a couple of layouts. The adequate hobbyist, like what a wonderful handle. But again, she's using her scraps. It looks very much like scraps. And of course, these are
Yeah,
my colors.
yeah. And we have featured her work. I think these are from last year as well. But yeah, and again, the flat lay plays into the theme story of the blocks. So yeah. Again, oh yeah, they're just all lovely. This is the best part of my.
So we're getting into some whoops, let's try that again. Some layouts here. People are beginning to put their blocks together. This is from T-Mac Stitching in North Carolina. She is using a black border. And look how effective that is in making all those bright colors jump.
Yeah. So as we come towards the end, it starts to become like roughly around block 70 is when I start thinking about, ooh, how am I going to pull this all together? Because generally I go into it with no plan whatsoever. And so the last 30 blocks allow you to start balancing the yellow in your collection, in your blocks and stuff like that. And then sashing again, as Karen's quilt shows beautifully. It's about how do you do that sashing? What does that sashing look like? Are you going to sash it? Because you don't have to. And then if you don't sash it, how are you going to get it to the size that you want and things like that? And black is often a hard color to work with if your eyes are going. And I notice both of us are wearing goggles. So, it's one of those ones where people often steer away from it. And because it shows lint really badly, hides chocolate and wine stains though, just saying. But yeah, but you can't go past black for popping those highly saturated colors.
And calming it down too. Like there's a lot of colors there, and the black calms it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then this one is actually last year's one. I just wanted to mention it. This is from Emira Meriden. She was actually on Karen's Quilt Circle at one time. She is a quilter from Malaysia, a quilter extraordinaire. She just does amazing things, but a Tula person as well. And
I just like to say I introduced you.
you did, you did. Thank you for making that introduction. But here she has just used she's gone the opposite way. Instead of using black, she went with a light color. It's actually a pattern. It's the fairy dust. But
Fairy dust.
just, again, just calms it down that little bit to make everything else so bright.
Yeah, and again, it's a bit of a cheat because they're all from the one designer. That sashing fabric is all from the one designer, so that color palette is already inbuilt. But the thing that using fairy dust, because it was when it was released, it became a really popular sashing, is that the rainbow scatter of color draws your eye to the other colors that are around it in the sashing. And so color that would have popped on its own in a block with that sashing suddenly goes down and the other colors around it come up. And so it's a very interesting random way of creating interest in that by using that rainbow scatter print. And she's actually cornerstoned it with the stripes and the dots, which I think is really fun.
She just wanted
Funny.
that extra level of torture in her life, right? Like
Yeah, but I'm
sashing's
all
not difficult enough. Let's just add some cornerstones to make it that extra level of complicated and matching up those seams. And well done. Well done, Amira. Well done. Now, this I think is from Make Modern. This was I pulled off their website. This is not their quilt. This
no,
is I wrote it down. Needle Bright made this, but here's that sashing, but they've chosen a color which calms down the blues in the quilt. It's definitely a blue quilt, but it has made those pinks and yellows pop.
yeah, and again, your eye goes straight to that yellow. Um, sorry, I'm just seeing if I can get the link to work if I don't put it as a link. Yeah, and this is a mix of fabrics. They don't know who the designers are. It's a mix of fabrics. And again, that sashing just ties it all together. Look how green that grass is.
Now, here's a close up of one. This is Free Motion Quilter from Tampa, Florida. But I'm actually going to, now that you've seen the name, I'm just going to blow it up a little bit more so you can see all that beautiful detail that has been done on it. Because it's tricky to know how to quilt this. This is definitely a custom quilting as opposed to mine, which is a pantograph. But you can have a lot of fun with some just simple design techniques.
And the use of solids. So, as a scrappy quilter and a person who does not quilt, I send all my quilting to Rayleigh of Sunflower Quilting, and we work together on it. Oftentimes, with this kind of quilt, that kind of quilting is going to get lost. And so that kind of quilting then becomes about what sort of texture do you want to see on the quilt as opposed to what quilting do you want to be the focus. If you do something with a lot of solids or tone on tone blenders, then that sort of quilting becomes more. We have a joke between the two of us about this is a quilt for the fabric and this is a quilt for the quilting. And so it's about making that conscious decision about what am I going to put the focus on? Do I want texture and shadow or do I want different color thread on it? What's my intention here? And yeah, a sampler, another great way to practice different samples of quilting styles and techniques. And yeah.
Now, this one isn't quite together. And quite frankly,
Sounds like me.
this is actually what I was aiming for with my quilt, with my original layout. This is from Rusty Cat Quilts. She is just doing a very, very neutral palette, very grayscale. But I just love the weightedness of how she's arranged her values on this.
Yeah, so she's doing the color dissolve across the quilt, which Karen will tell you is a hard one to pull off. I actually think next year's quilt pattern is going to make this so much easier for people that want to do that dissolve. And I'm looking forward to see how people interpret the quilt blocks for next year, and see whether we've given them an easier job of doing the dissolve of color. So yeah, it's just another thing to think about. And a lighter colored sashing. So she's gone for a mid-tone gray sashing on this, but a lighter colored sashing would have a completely different look as well. And then if she'd gone a really dark sashing, it would have played it up differently again. So sometimes it pays just to, like she's done here, lay out your sashing fabric, put a couple of blocks on it, and then leave it there for as long as you can and think about it and live with it and mull it over, but don't procrastinate.
We've got just a couple more. If anybody's just these look like the colors of my farmer's wife quilt. Look at the braiding that she's done on the side. This is Shirley. Oh, my eyes. I obviously Solner,
Surely you're joking.
Shirley.
I don't joke about quilts. um, yeah, so she's done the scrappy how no, it's not a houndstooth. Is it a braid?
It's a
Yeah,
braid.
anyway, the chevron look up the sides, which I really like too, because um, the this quilt, because of the odd shaped blocks, isn't necessarily a square finish, which is my favorite size to finish it. And so this is another way of adding a bit more width to it, girth,
And using up your scraps.
and using up your scraps. So yeah,
Yep. So this is not the kitchen sink, and it's not sashed. It's sort of halfway in between.
yeah. It
Okay.
reminds me of a hunting lodge or a cabin.
And this one by Louise Tom Hughes. Oh, look at
Yep.
that
So
palette. Holy
yeah,
mackerel.
yeah. See, I knew this would be an interesting one for you guys. Um, so she's double bordered it. Double bordered.
Yes.
She's put two borders on it. Um, and so it acts like a frame and a mat board, which is another great way to go to add extra width and height, and to draw the eye into the blocks as well. It sort of caps them off. It doesn't. One of my pet peeves is when I've done flying geese or something with points and it ends in the binding and you don't get to appreciate the crispness of that point. And so all of my quilts tend to have a float border around them for that reason. And this is really done well. And again, a really controlled palette. She's used 3 fabrics in the blocks and only one print.
Well,
So
there's more in this. When you use green and red, even though they're complementary colors, the value of red and green are almost identical. So you've got to be very strategic in how you use your lights and darks. And I can't tell you how impressed I am with this layout. It is just beautiful. And she's done a wonderful job of weighting it. I love that the heart that's in the bottom corner. I know it's probably on its side, but that'll give a little bit of weight to that bottom corner and tell everybody which way the quilt is up. Uh, just lovely. Just
yeah,
absolutely lovely. Wish I had done
and
it myself.
that layout is the cover quilt layout as
Right.
well. You should just put another border around it, which I'm wishing we had thought to do that. But yeah.
So I'm just, for people that haven't seen it, I'm just going to throw up next year's 100 Days, 100 block here. Let me just say, there it is. Of course, I've got to make it smaller. I like how you've used black and white binding on it, a little stripe. So this is what Angie's talking about when she says it's going to be easier to put that weight in the bottom side. Now, we know Angie. So it wouldn't be Angie unless she did a color version of it. So here is the color version for those who like rainbow. Let's bring that
And
down.
who doesn't like rainbow? I can live with people not liking Jula, but I'm not sure I can live with people not liking a rainbow. No.
This is going to be so much fun. And of course, we have the expansion pack, which we're not going to tell you about until a little closer to the date. So, that is it for tonight. It has been, I haven't had any commitments that I have to run to, and Angie's, luckily, she got her parents off early, so she's good too. So, thank you everyone for coming this evening. It's been fun catching up again on all these blocks. If you are just starting right now, it is still possible to jump in. That is not an issue.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate. There's a number of people that said that they're interested in the pattern. Just go to Angie's website and check it out. And sorry, I'm just trying to find another setting on my screen here, and I can't find it. Oh well, that's it. So what else?
Come on the cruise with us.
Yeah, come on the cruise with us. And you can find out on either of our websites. And I'm sure if you subscribe to Angie's newsletter, you will find it in her some information about it in her next email. So that's what I needed to show you. Our next Q&A is going to be November 22nd. Same time, same channel.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. If you want to check out my my last video, I'm going to leave a link to the playlist here. If you want to check out any of my other playlists, I will I will set it off here. So thank you, everyone, for being here. It's been lovely. And I'll see you next week. Take care.